Good afternoon, everyone. As you're aware, the British Prime Minister, David Cameron, has asked the overseas territories to attend a meeting in the UK next week, and I have accepted that invitation. A few weeks ago, I made a statement regarding tax and transparency, in which I stated that while the Prime Minister Cameron is keen to underscore Britain's position on fighting tax evasion and aggressive tax avoidance through tax information and exchange, and access to information on beneficial ownership companies, Bermuda takes no issue with this initiative because Bermuda is already ahead of the curve. We continue to keep abreast of developing standards. As you know, for decades, Bermuda has required companies seeking to incorporate in Bermuda to file beneficial ownership information with the Bermuda Monetary Authority, better known as the BMA. We have also recently passed legislation to license all corporate service providers in Bermuda and bring them under the umbrella of Proceeds of Crime Act that imposes the Financial Action Task Force standard on beneficial ownership. Just over a month ago, the Minister of Finance, Bob Richards, announced that after considerable consultation with the various industry stakeholders in Bermuda and discussions with the U.S. Treasury officials, the Bermuda government has decided to negotiate and sign an intergovernmental agreement, IGA Model 2, with the U.S. And at the request of the UK government, a similar format will be negotiated and signed with them, which will further enforce Bermuda's already enviable reputation as a jurisdiction that has proactively paved the road for transparent and compliant business transactions. According to the World Bank's Governance Indicator report, Bermuda is listed amongst the top 10% in this area. I want to make it clear that attending the UK meeting provides Bermuda with another opportunity to articulate on a world stage that while we may all be British overseas territories, Bermuda is fundamentally different in how we conduct our business. Bermuda is a low-tax jurisdiction, not a tax haven. I will also have the opportunity to have a private meeting with Prime Minister Cameron while in the UK. This new administration also has good working relationships with the UK Minister of the Overseas Territories, Mark Simmons, as you know, who I have met with several times. As a government, we will continue to be aggressive and look for opportunities to leverage these relationships and others for the benefit of Bermuda and Bermudians. Let me also just add that whilst we are here, our Minister of Finance, Mr. Richards, is on his way back. He has been to London, he has been to Brussels. 2 weeks ago, I entertained interviews with UK media as well, as some of you reported. So we will continue to champion the cause of Bermuda. I know that there has been much unrest about Bermuda being named amongst the bad boys, per se, as a jurisdiction. And I want Bermuda to understand that we are not amongst that group. We have, for years now, been ahead of the curve, as we have already said, in ensuring that our transparency is there and ensuring that our regulation is the highest of standards possible, and that we continue to look for opportunities to tighten up the net for anyone looking to come and domicile here through business and participate in illegal activities. So with that in mind, I'll entertain any questions that you may have. As you're aware as well, Mr. Richards has been away and entertained many of the media abroad, and we are in discussions as we speak with Mark Simmons and number 10 Downing Street to get out there next week to do our part in championing the cause of what it is that we do here in Bermuda.
So, Mr. Premier,
yes.
Are you tempted to ask Mr. Cameron when is all this going to stop?
Yeah, I think we've already pretty much made that clear. We're not sure exactly where all this is going. He has intimated that his concern is that we continue to be of high caliber when it comes to regulation and beneficial business ownership and being transparent. He has continued to say that this is really an attempt to get us all together to ensure that if there are any loopholes there, that we tighten up on them. I know some words have been used like summoned. This is not a case of us being summoned at all. He has voluntarily asked us to come out and have discussions with him.
HSBC the other day, the chairman of HSBC didn't have the balls or the information not to say yes, Bermuda is a tax haven. I mean, that doesn't help us, does it?
No, that kind of language or omission of being able to come forward and say exactly what it is that we do here, I think it's important that people understand that we are the leaders in captive insurance. We are the leaders in reinsurance and insurance. We're not some of the banking domiciles, as to our friends down in the South, who have maybe been implicated in many of these instances that have caused some concern. Bermuda again, as I just let you know, has been known to be amongst the best when it comes to regulatory standards. Yes.
Three things in life are certain, right? Death, taxes, and tax avoidance. Tax loopholes aren't accidents. They're not created by the people. They're not created to benefit the people. They're created by the corporations to benefit the corporations. For the PM2, as The Guardian reported, summoned you. Is this not diversionary to the real problem at hand, that being that corporations are passing the legislation that opens up these tax loopholes?
Yeah, I think the real concern is to some of the developing nations. I think that's where the concern really is. And if you read further some of the comments that Prime Minister Cameron has stated, he's very much concerned about developing nations and companies or individuals taking advantage of developing nations. One of the reasons for this multilateral convention that he is looking to have the OTs and the CDs sign up to is an effort to ensure that many of the developing nations come up to speed as quickly as possible. But I do understand that concern. Sorry, yes, sorry. Yeah, you were next.
So my question, I guess, relates to your statements.
Yes.
Every premier has said this since government's went, that Bermuda is not a tax haven.
Sure.
It's a low-tax jurisdiction. Are we talking semantics here?
Well, if you want to look at the facts, and let's just break this down. We do have tax here. It comes in a different format than maybe other jurisdictions, but you know very well that this government receives much of its tax through payroll tax and the likes. It is a different format. But in addition to that, if you were to take some of the sovereign nations, the G8 nations, and strip away what they pay for defense and social insurance, when you start looking at the percentage of tax, we're very much on equal par, very balanced there, and I think that's something that hasn't been championed in the past, and we really need to get that message out there. It is a different form of tax that we levy here, but certainly not, again, no tax, zero tax haven.
Right. Well, I guess what I'm trying to get at is you would find a lot of companies will come here because they save millions in taxes. Okay. The pressure that some of these other, the UK, etc., are feeling is they need their tax revenue back, especially now.
Yeah. Oh,
so
yes.
So when a company says, "I'm here because I'm saving in taxes," for them it's a tax haven, isn't it?
I don't know. I think it's a different system. It's just like anything else. It may be an opportunity for them to save tax, but again, it is not a tax haven. It's kind of like semantics that we're going back and forth here. But let me just also talk about the benefits that the UK and the United States levy from the opportunity of being domiciled in a low-tax jurisdiction. You would know that billions of dollars is paid out in catastrophes and the likes along the United States as well as the UK. We just did a study concerning the US and the benefit of many of the companies that are here and how that financially benefits the United States. You just take a look at the last few hurricanes and the millions of dollars that were spent by the companies that are domiciled here back into the infrastructure of the United States. We just did a study with Britain as well. Our finance minister just got a report back, and I don't have all the details, but some of the highlights of that is that much of what the companies domiciled here do bring back is over 100,000 jobs that benefit in the UK from the jurisdiction of companies being here, domiciled in Bermuda, and the millions and millions of dollars that are benefited to the UK based on these companies that is paid back. So it is a beneficial relationship here, but certainly not a zero tax jurisdiction.
Are you comfortable with Bermuda as a colony of the UK?
At this present time, yes. But I do believe that as we continue to mature, I've said it many times before, Bermuda has to take its future into its own hands. What that future is continuing to develop. As some of these things happen, we certainly need to be considering how we position ourselves on the world stage and what it is that we do going forward to protect our Bermudians, our standard of living, and the likes.
Would you like to be Bermuda's first Prime Minister?
Cool.
I don't think that that's probably something that I'm aspiring to at this point in time. I'm the Premier of Bermuda, and it is what it is. So,
has anybody made a list of the things, specific things that the foreign countries are unhappy with us about? Specific things they'd like us to do in order to
sure.
be better citizens?
Certainly, that's something that that's why we're going on this summit, because we need to hear a little more. All we're hearing right now is a lot of noise about us being summoned. We're hearing a lot of noise about us being a zero-tax haven jurisdiction, and we know that to be to the contrary. It'll be important for us to meet with some of the NGO organizations. The NGO is really made up of several different organizations who are concerned, and we also, just so that you're aware, we'll be meeting with some of these organizations to help clarify our position and who we are. I mean, this is not something that we should be shying away from. I think this is an opportunity that we can get out there and really champion the cause of Bermuda. But all of the concerns really, what I've heard thus far is many of the third world countries and developing nations, people feel that they are being pilfered. And that's something that we don't want to see. We want to ensure that many of these countries are up to par with us when it comes to regulatory standards. And that's what the multilateral convention is about, ensuring that those who are lagging behind are brought up to speed and at a standard where most of us are.
But think of all the praise that we've been getting from these people who look down upon us, the praise that we've got for setting the tone, leading the way, setting an example for all the other countries. What reward can we honestly show for that lead as we stand today? We're still packed in with the bunch.
Yeah, well, I think really and truly, again, it goes back to making sure that we have the message out there. Bermuda really stands and is surfing the waves of all of the large, if you want, G8 nations. Our standard of regulation really is superior to many of the G8 nations, to be truthful. Again, what can we benefit from this here? I believe, again, we have not championed our cause enough. We haven't made enough noise. So we get, gather together with the rest of the overseas territories and crown dependencies because people really don't understand what it is that we do. So we have to continue to push the message out there about what it is that we are doing. Simply continue on. And that's why 3 weeks ago I was doing the interviews. Bob Richards, our finance minister, is out there this week. We will follow up again next week, and we'll be looking at our London office as well to continue that message.
To some extent, do you think there's a lot of political grandstanding going on overseas, and we end up being a whipping boy to try to channel the focus of attention away from problems that they created themselves and onto supposed problems we created?
Well, I'll concur that many of us do believe that. Depending on who you talk to, there probably is a lot of grandstanding going on here. There is politics involved. But I'm not too necessarily concerned about, that itself. I'm concerned more about what is it that Bermuda is doing to take control of the situation, to get its message out there. And so we'll continue to do that.
That's it for everybody?
One last question.
It's about 3 o'clock.
Sorry. Developer Nathan Landau said that Bermuda is not ready for development, although it has potential for development. Could you respond to that comment? Do you believe that Bermuda is ready to be developed?
I believe that it is. But that's a personal opinion, so...